Hi everyone. Let me get Deirdre in on here. Hi.
Good morning. How
I
are
could
you?
hear Chewy just now.
Chewy's barking at the wind,
Ah,
as dogs do.
okay, this call snuck up on me. I almost wasn't ready.
Me too. I was like doing a million things. But good morning to you. Good morning to anyone joining us. This is Writers Uncut. I am Deirdre with my wonderful writing friend.
Cheyenne.
And we are here to talk to you about all things writing, publishing, promoting, particularly today, NaNoWriMo.
Yes, and I am very, very cold. I just wanted to say that.
What's the temperature there?
Like 32 degrees.
What?
It was 29 overnight, so we had to cover the plants and everything.
Oh
And
my
it's so
gosh.
cold. And I'm the only one in the house, so I kind of keep the heater off so I'm not heating the whole house for no reason.
Yeah.
And it's so cold. This is my husband's huge jacket. Anyway,
You have a little space heater?
yes, it's right next to me and it does not work at all. Like it works, but it's not working as well as I would like.
I think I need to get one of those. Hold on. I'll show you what keeps me warm. I have this little guy.
He is a little fluff ball.
He's literally, like, I actually have been having a good laugh about it lately because he's literally, he's a lap dog. Like, he sits on my lap and keeps me warm, as
Aww.
dogs do.
Yeah, well, mine, she likes to lean, but she doesn't like to be leaned on.
Oh.
So if you're sitting down and she comes up and leans beside you, it's cool. If I try to lay on her for warmth, she's like, no, she'll just get up and move somewhere else. It's so rude.
I think it's just us chatting right now, but if anyone catches the replay, be sure to comment if you have an animal, a dog, a cat, anything that, you know, is your kind of your writing buddy. I always love to hear stories about that. Like, you know, your dog keeps you company while you're writing, or your cat tries to sit on your keyboard.
My cat's the worst. She actually tries to like bat her paws at the screen when I'm typing because she sees the words appear, you know? So, and I'm always shoving her off, but yeah. And so that's the reason why my book is dedicated to my dog, but not my cat, because she did absolutely no help whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the opposite of help.
Mm-hmm.
It's entertaining though. But anyway, okay, so it looks like Matt Voyager joined us. Good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are. If you have questions about National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, feel free to drop them in the comment oval. Do you listen to music to help you write? What a great question.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go first?
Yes, my answer is usually no. I don't like music at all when I'm writing because I either listen to music I enjoy and then I start singing along and I'm not writing, or I've tried listening to classical or some other kind of music that I don't know, so that I won't sing to, and it doesn't work. But ironically,
I know
there's
what you're going to say.
yeah, there's a caveat to everything here. So I don't. I've spent 10 years not listening to music when I write. But for the last few days, I've been writing a Christmas novella. And I started playing an Amazon Christmas playlist just to kind of get me in the Christmas spirit. And I'm obsessed. Like, it's been like a week straight of me listening to Christmas music every day. And I normally don't even like Christmas music. I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's really helped me write my story. So for the first time in 10 years of writing, I am really enjoying listening to music while I write. So, but usually I say no. So what about you?
I'm going to kind of tag off of that because I also have a two-part answer. And I think the thing about Christmas music is that it kind of can fade into the background. You know all the words. Like, yes, you can sing along, but it doesn't, like, demand your attention. Like, oh, I like this new song. I wonder who does it. Like, it's just kind of like background music for me anyway. I mean, I love putting it on during the the season, not in November. Crazy person.
Right.
I've been listening to it too. Because I'm also writing a Christmas novella, or wrote. But anyway, good morning, or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. It's morning here. I'm on the Pacific Coast. But anyway, so I can listen to music, especially if there are other people in the house. My office is right in the middle of the living room. I call it my office, but it is actually the living room where, where the rest of the family hangs out. And if I need to focus, I'll put on my headphones and I'll listen to something that I know so well, so inside out, that it's just become like background noise, which isn't as distracting as people talking in the house or the TV or something else that's going to kind of like knock me out of my focus. For those of you who just joined, we're talking about, or Matt asked if we listen to music when we write. So I'm kind of answering that question. So I can listen to music if need be, and that might be something that I know really, really well, like an album that I've listened to 100 times, and I'll put my headphones on and I'll go in and listen. But ordinarily, if I'm alone writing or, there's no distractions, I do prefer the silence, the quiet, because I can tap back into my creative well. So it looks like we have a bunch of people joining us. Good morning. We're just talking about listening to music when we write. So if you listen to music when you write, or if you don't, let us know, like put a little emoji or something in the comment box, because it varies from person to person. I know people that like, they have a ritual with a playlist and like all this stuff that they have to have on. And sometimes during like my creative time when I'm brainstorming or outlining, like with the Christmas music, like it can kind of get you in the groove a little bit. But yeah, pretty much I prefer like the full-on creative brain, no distractions. So, but for those of you just coming, so yeah, the monkey, no music, I'm taking that as, we are talking about writing, and if you have any questions specifically related to NaNoWriMo, you can ask us. Otherwise, we're going to kind of just chat, or you can ask us about other things. We do have one other question from another writer, Jen, who's, I don't think she's here, but we can still answer.
No.
Yeah.
So Jen asked, how do you maintain momentum on high daily word count goals? And I replied,
yeah.
Well, I replied with an emoji of a coffee, but do you want to like give a serious answer for that?
A giant. This is actually tea, but it's pretty huge. It's like as big as my head. How do you maintain momentum for high word count goals, like daily word count goals? Maybe you're doing nano and you have a set amount. And I think I'll just start by saying a high word count is really variable for different people. When I started writing, my word count like goal would be like 500 words, 1,000 words. And in the last decade, it has gone up, and I aim for between 5,000 and 6,000 words a day if I'm on a project. And actually this question is going to segue into that. I'll kind of be answering a little bit, but actually last Friday, I think it was, I wrote like almost 10,000, which I needed to like crash after that. I was spent.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. But that doesn't really answer your question. The answer to the question is, how do you keep momentum? And I think for me, it comes back to, there are two answers. One is, it comes back to why am I doing this? Why do I want to write this book? Why is this story burning to get out of me? Or maybe in the case of like, this is my income, this is how I need to make my money, there can be motivations there. So coming back and answering that really basic but big question, why am I doing this? Why am I driven? Why am I a writer? Why am I crazy? That can kind of help you clarify. And I even, for a while, I had my why posted in my little nook by my desk. And so that would just be something I would glance at when I was losing steam. And then the other more practical, how do you keep momentum, I think is, the more physical part, because it can be exhausting. Even though you're using your mind, it's still taxing. And I think, getting up and stretching, having, keeping hydrated and drinking, and maybe like every chapter or something, taking a little walk, or like either around the house or just pop outside, let the dog out, whatever you do, and get some fresh air. And I think maybe sometimes too, being a part of community where you do word sprints, or you have an accountability partner. Shane and I are always Like, this is what I'm doing today. Like, wish me luck. And then we'll be like, Carol, you got it. You can do it. So that's a really long answer, but I want to hear what you have to say because you also have really high word count goals daily.
So I wanted to say that, yeah, I also started when I was still working the day job, and when I wrote my first novel, getting 500 words a day was like an extreme achievement, and I was really proud of that. Darby asked, can we ask general writing questions or Nano only? Yes, ask anything. We're happy to answer it. So now I typically aim for 5,000 words a day. I've only had 3 10,000 word days in my life, and I remember them because I was so tired afterward. I felt completely beat. Like, it feels like you've been physically exercising all day when you do 10,000 words. Yeah. But so how I maintain momentum is writing is really a muscle. It really is, and it's like the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I've talked before about my bike desk. I have a stationary bike desk called the Fit Desk 2.0. Get it on Amazon. I wish they paid me to advertise this thing, but maybe I should email them. Anyway, so I use a stationary bike desk, and I sit on that, and I pedal, and I write, and I just get it done. And it has gotten so much easier as the time goes on. So I aim for 5,000 words a day. I usually hit that in about an hour, hour and a half, and then I'm done for the rest of the day with my writing. And it took me probably, because I've been a full-time writer for 3.5 years now, it took me probably the first 2 years to get to that. And it really was just by making myself do it every day. And it's just like going to the gym. I imagine I'm not an in shape person, but it's like going to the gym and working out every day. You get better at it the more you do it. So you just have to force yourself to do it. And that's really the best advice I can give.
Yep.
But we also have more questions.
I'm actually gonna I'll read this first one aloud because it actually relates to what we're talking about. Do you outline before you start writing? Do you start with pad and pen or straight into MacBook? Do you write a synopsis? So I think part of actually getting in that or keeping that motivation and keeping going is knowing where you're going. And so having an outline is really, really helpful. So Cheyenne's there on her bike desk, like she's pedaling away, maybe not moving anywhere physically, but she knows where she's going in her story because she has an outline.
And also, that's my outline.
Oh, wow.
So I don't want anyone to read it, so I'm going to hold it back. So I print out the outline, I stick it on this thing. Yeah. Like what you put high school reports in, and I stick it on top of my bike desk, like over the little speedometer, and then I can look at it as I write. So 100% outline. I will tell everybody to outline. That is the best way to write fast because, especially for Nano too, you need to go into Nano with an outline because you don't get tripped up and you don't get writer's block whenever you know what's coming next.
Yes.
So
yes, and it keeps you going because as soon as you're done with one chapter, you have the next one right there ready and waiting to go. So, we both definitely, like, don't be fooled. We both definitely, like, add things in, like character traits and different things that just come up as you're going. It's not like,
oh yeah, like that's written right there, and I've scratched out some lines because I do tweak it as I go along, but it's nice to have that outline. Also, I am strongly against Apple products, so I don't use the MacBook. But
Apple products, so use your MacBook.
He said, do we write a synopsis? Yes. I would also say go back and listen to the previous Writers Uncut episodes on YouTube because it'll say it in the description. We did one that was really detailed on outlining. Yeah. So, and I also have, if you go to my Instagram profile and click on my link tree, I have a link to my blog where I posted this outline template that I use. So that might be able to help you too. Yeah. And Pete, are you going to read the next question?
I was actually, he also said, do you start with pad and pen or straight into MacBook? And then I'll just answer that really quick. I often jot down notes and ideas on with paper and pen, and then that ends up going into a document, and then I print it out like you do. But I don't. In high school, I remember it was sort of I'm aging myself or dating myself here, but I remember it was kind of like when we shifted from writing out essays and papers and stuff longhand into like the expectation was computer. And I remember I would write out all of my papers and then type them into the computer. And I'm like, I'll never get used to this. I'll always write with pen and paper. And I was really committed to that. And then, over time, I was just like, what am I doing to myself? This is so much extra work. But I think though it has to do with the flow of your ideas. So if you find that they just naturally come as you put pen to paper, by all means, there's no right or wrong way. And then the synopsis versus the outline, I think you actually kind of introduced this to me. I've started doing like a little mini blurb or a little synopsis to some of my books, just to kind of, almost like it's like more of an overview than a detailed outline. And so then I can make sure I'm hitting those points as I move deeper into the story, because you can get a little bit lost as you're writing. Like you kind of go deep into the, into the characters and the plot and all this stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, wait a minute, this was supposed to happen. And I kind of like veered off the track.
Been there.
So, yeah. So anyway, okay, we'll move on. Do you want to read the next one? It's also from Matt.
Yes. He said, is your approach to Nano different than to normal writing? And I would say yes. With Nano, I am really just aiming to get a rough draft done. I'm also speaking to y'all who are doing Nano, because I'm not doing Nano right now. But with Nano, I know that I'm making a rough, quick, non-perfect draft. So my approach is really just to get the words down. And, you can work on it later. Like, I don't spend much time on Nano books. Well, I guess you spend time, but I don't fix things as I go along. I don't edit things as I go along. I don't change things. I just get the words done and uploaded, and I get the goal met. So my Nano writing approach is vastly different than regular approaches.
Yeah. And actually, I'll add to that. I find that with Nano, it's kind of a mindset shift when we're writing, our normal manuscripts. I feel like there's a lot of attention and care, and especially for those of us who are perfectionists, we can kind of become a little bit paralyzed when it comes time for Nano. It's like, okay, well, wait, but I want my book to be like this, and I have this great vision for it, but you're asking me to write 50,000 words in 30 days. Now, what Shan was saying about having a writing muscle, it's really true. Like, to me, 50,000 words in 30 days isn't that big of a deal. Like, don't hate me for saying that, but you can get there too. Anyway, but I do think there's a mindset piece that really needs to be, given some attention. And that's it. Two things. One is done is better than perfect. So, just whip it out. This is the skeleton. This is draft 0. This is you just getting everything down onto the page. And then the other piece is, I think a lot of writers, or a lot of people that I want to write a book, or they have several manuscripts, projects that they've started, and then they don't finish. And I think there's a real thing about finishing fear, I guess you could call it. And that's kind of like, well, if I finish this book, if I'm done writing this manuscript and this idea that has been in like my heart or my mind for all this time, what happens then? Like, will I never get another idea? Like, if I'm done with it, then I don't have that creative project that I've been working on and pouring my heart into and my soul and all that stuff. And so I think people can kind of get hung up on that piece. It's like, well, if I actually finish, if I get in all those words, then what? Like, well, then you have a finished book, which is really awesome, and all the great revision that you get to do after that. But I think a lot of people can become a little bit stuck and not necessarily want to finish because of that fear of like, what's next and what. So anyway, I hope that kind of answers. And then let's see. Okay, next question. Querying. What tips for query letters do you have?
So I tell everyone to go to the Query Shark website, and you can read through it. There was probably 300 posts back when I was querying, and I read every single one. It's a secret, kind of anonymous way where people send in their queries, and an agent dissects them and tells you everything wrong with it and everything right with it, and the people can revise it and send it back. And she gives a bunch of examples of good queries and bad queries, and really it just kind of helps you shape how to write one. So, and I'm trying to think of it. I don't remember. What does Anne always say? Oh, also she told me to tell you hello, because I was talking to her before we started this. Anne always says it's the 5 things your query needs. And I would say go back and listen to our Writers Uncut Ask the Agent episode, because she gives that. It's like, your character needs, what do they want? How are they going to get it? What's stopping them? Do you know the 5 things off the top of your head? I don't, because I'm terrible.
I think it's your character, your conflict, your the stakes, like what's going to happen if they don't get what they want. I can't remember. I think.
But it's like this basic formula, and she says
Yeah.
it on that, and you need to look it up or follow her on Twitter because she can say it real fast. She's got it memorized. But it's like you need to make sure your query hits all of those things. Your character, what the story is, what the character wants is very important, and what's standing in their way from getting what they want is very important. So make sure all of that is in your query. And another thing I want to say is don't put a bunch of stuff about yourself in there. I've seen so many writers have 2 sentences. My book is about blah, 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 blah. Now here's 3 paragraphs of myself and everything I've ever done and every college class I've taken and like every hobby I have. Like, agents don't care about you. They really don't. Like, if you have a fancy publishing credit, include that. If your hometown newspaper published your letter to the editor, don't include that. Nobody cares. Like, what you want is you don't want them to not pay attention to your book pitch because they're reading all this extra stuff about yourself.
Yeah.
Just put the book and make it super compelling and hit all those 5 things, which I'm really sorry I can't tell you what they are right now because I can't remember. But hit all of those things and precise, to the point, don't ramble. Do not say, I have the next Harry Potter, I have the next Twilight, I have the next best-selling novel. Don't say any of that stuff. That's like an instant rejection, okay? And also, I would say, don't be cute on your query. Have you seen those examples? Like, the people that throw in a bunch of examples. Like, well, no, yours aren't that bad. Yours aren't that bad. But some people try to be clever and like reinvent the query, and I wouldn't do that because the query process is the way it is because that's what agents prefer, and that's what shows that you're professional. Because I would argue if you can't write a professional industry standard query, why are they going to want to write or to work with you as an author? They might think this person's going to be a complete pain to work with. So I realize I just listed a bunch of complaints, but if you don't do all the wrong stuff in your query, you're way more likely to get offers of representation. So
those are all really, really good and practical points. And I'll just add, I'll add a bunch of things, but being concise, definitely be concise. Show a writing buddy. We have a writer's Facebook private group. You're welcome to post a query in there and get some feedback, some advice. We've been in the query trenches, so we've been there with you. And so, Cheyenne, you kind of talked about like the more practical the aspects to actually like the physical query, and you making sure you have your greeting, your like the main part of your query, and then a sentence maybe about you, or if you have any credits, or just a sign off like thank you, I look forward to hearing from you. Always be polite, professional. But then on the other side of that, tips for query letters, there's also like the emotional side, and comes back to, and I think we've talked about this a little bit before, it comes back to patience. So much patience, because agents and agencies get so many queries, and the reason why you want to be concise and stick to the industry standards is because they want to look at your query and want to give it a second look instead of seeing at the top like dear sir or madam or having the agent's name wrong or whatever. They want to know that you've paid attention, you've done your research, you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, and they can then take that not necessarily out of the slush pile, but not have it just be deleted and like move on. So patience during that process, because their list is long and they have a lot going on, and the other part of it is that they're primarily focusing on their clients, which is what we want them to do, because when we're their client, we want their attention and all of that. So be patient with them, and while you're querying, we both recommend sending them out in batches. So send maybe 5 or so queries, wait and see, like if you get any feedback. Sometimes you get a little bit of a clue of where you went wrong if you do hear back from an agent, or where you went right. And then you can do another batch, and always keep track so you don't send duplicates. There's what's the name of that website that we've both
querytracker.net.
Yes, querytracker.net. I knew it wasn't a .com. That's a great resource to use to kind of do your research, but also to sort of see what to sort of see what you're doing as you go. And then one last thing I'll say, because I know I'm kind of going long, is it's the website, I think it's manuscriptwishlist.com or MSWL. It has some great things about agents and what they're looking for, and not only like what they're looking for, like, oh, my dream book is about, sirens in Nova Scotia or something, the next book that they're looking for, but it also has some really good tips to kind of follow along with. So yeah.
Yes.
I hope
Also, you can join our Facebook group at Writers Uncut, and I posted my query there last week, which got me 3 offers and a ton of requests. So you could read that if you wanted. Okay, so Matt says, how much detail do you put into outlines and synopsises? I asked because I like the idea, but they can become a distraction from actual writing. That is because you are doing it wrong. So they're not a distraction if you write them first. My outlines are typically about 7,000 to 10,000 words, I would say. They're extremely detailed, but I spend a good 5 or 6 days writing it. And then it's so detailed and so complex, and it's got every single aspect of my story in it, that then my writing is 1,000 times faster. And I've tried writing books with very simple outlines where I'll put like 1 sentence per chapter, and it takes twice as long to write the story because I have to stop and figure everything out. So like this is, like that's each chapter going down. There's 6 chapters on this page. And this is actually for my Christmas novella, so it's extremely non-detailed compared to my actual ones. My actual ones, like 1 chapter will be this long of an outline. Yeah. And I find it actually makes things way faster, and you don't get distracted because you know what you're supposed to write. So mine are super detailed. I think yours are pretty detailed as well, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Actually, I showed my agent one of my outlines, and she's like, yeah, this might work for you, but like I can't, because it's like it's all in your head. It's like in your own little shorthand and language and stuff. And but yeah, I'm definitely an advocate of the outline and the synopsis and laying as much groundwork as you can before you start writing. But if that's not you, like some people legitimately work better off the cuff. Maybe just write like a couple sentences per chapter so that you make sure. And again, like it comes back to making sure the structure, like the 3-act structure is there, your plot points are there, the character arcs are there. It's not necessarily that we want to make more work for ourselves by doing these outlines, but we want to make sure that in the big scope of the story, because you get so close to it, in the big scope of the story, that you're hitting all of those marks. And so, I think as you write and you gain more experience, you find a method that works for you, and that even might change over time, but you find what's going to work based on that book or that project or whatever it is. And you can kind of like, it becomes more of a tool than a distraction. Let's see. Okay. Oh, cool. Darby. That's fancy. Taking notes. Go girl. Yes. Okay, you are welcome. All right, will you list these resources on the Facebook page? That's a great idea.
Yes, I will.
Yes. So that was Query Tracker, Query Shark. Another one I used to look at, and I'm guessing it's still on there. My computer is like turning itself on and off for some reason right now. I think it's possessed. Do you remember Nathan Bransford? I think he's an agent.
Oh my gosh, you taught me everything I know. You taught me everything I know. Mm-hmm.
NathanBransford.com or whatever it is. We'll look it up. He has some great...
I'm taking notes, so I'll link everything.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, he has some really great insights into queries and what works and what doesn't and that kind of thing. I don't know, like I've kind of lost track. I don't even know. Or Query Shark, and that was, what was her name?
They are Janet Reed.
Janet Reed, yeah.
Yes, they're still there because I was helping someone with a query a week or so ago, and I sent them to those pages. I had to make sure they were still there. Yeah.
So definitely join us on the Facebook page because we can also continue this conversation. We try to keep our lives on the shorter side so they're more digestible, and you're not spending all your precious writing time listening to us chat. But we are happy to answer any other questions you have. Otherwise, we will move this onto Facebook, and Cheyenne will post all those resources. And we will see you guys next week, right?
Yep, I have a very quick book recommendation for this week.
Okay.
It is the Legend series by Marie Lu.
Okay.
These books are actually several years old, and I didn't bother reading them till recently, and I really regretted that it took me so long. It's a trilogy, I believe, and I think there's a couple novellas online. I haven't read those yet, but it is so good. I completely loved everything about it. So, and I'm normally not a very big fan of dystopian type novels, but this one was just really great. I completely loved it. So if you're like me and you're behind the times on books, you need to check this one out.
Well, books are kind of timeless, so, you know, it's never too late.
Except for the first book I wrote where she was using a flip cell phone. I looked at it, I was like, yeah, those aren't a thing anymore.
It's so funny, especially when you see in movies, people are like on their big phone. You're like, oh, wow, yeah, it used to be like that. What was I watching? Oh, I was watching Ghostbusters a little while ago, and they had like the antenna phone with like,
but yeah,
it's still connected to the house. It's not a cell phone. Like, they're pulling up the antenna, and I was like, oh, I remember that. I think we had that phone when I was a kid.
I mean, I try not to date my books like that anymore, but sometimes it's hard. But
it is.
anyway, okay, so join us on Facebook, Writers Uncut. What's it called? Writers Uncut Group?
I think so.
Oh, yes, it is. I'm looking at it right now. So facebook.com/groups/Writers Uncut Group, or you could probably just search Writers Uncut on Facebook and you'll find us.
I think there's another one, which is why I added the word group. Like,
oh, okay. Well, join the good Writers Uncut, not the other one. You'll see it because it's got our pictures on it. So anyway, join us there. You can also find us on YouTube where we have all of our previous episodes, and I would definitely check out the Ask Agent episode if you're querying, because there's a lot of great stuff on there. And there's another one that talks about outlining. I would check that out too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would check out all of them and like and subscribe to us so we can update our YouTube name.
Like and subscribe below.
We're becoming those people. Anyway,
well,
thanks for joining us, everyone.
What was that?
I said thanks for joining us.
Yes. Thank you, guys, and happy writing, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.